Alright, so maybe I have a problem.
Now, the whole video obviously isn't going to have that horrible phone quality to it, but I figured I'd leave that part in because I thought it was funny. So yeah, I said I'd be doing something different over on Twitter, and this is, well, something different. I have finally gotten a job this year after a long journey of intense education and graduating from college, and I figured with said newfound income, why not buy things I like? And so, that came in the form of these anime figures, and as you can tell, I'm not really good at this live filming type of stuff. I typically stick to my editing and my software, but this is the first time I've done something different, so I hope you'll bear with me and my poor quality. Some parts are scoffed, admittedly, in the video, but I did what I could. Yeah, $2,000 collection for $20 setup. Sue me, alright? But let's get into the first figures I got here. Now, you can see my jank setup, which was literally me pushing, I guess, a coffee table against my door because I live in a tiny apartment still, share with my mom, and since it's kind of not a good time to buy a house right now in case you haven't noticed, I just figured work with what I got here. But you saw them on the thumbnail, and if that little intro didn't make it clear, the figures I'm going to be talking about first are the very popular Pyra and Mithra 1/7 scale figures, and these figures are amazing. I want to give special attention to the box here because, my gosh, does this look amazing. You can kind of see pictures of how they'll look from the front and the back, and you even got the cute little artwork on the front too, but here they are in the blister packaging, and with my poor transition, you can see I've horribly messed things up here, and have somehow managed to fix it here, thankfully. Yeah, the heads actually come off on these figures, which, cool little detail, but here I try to zoom up more on them, and they look amazing. If you have these figures, and maybe you do because they are very popular and they were the most popular figures on Omni's website, you know how amazing they are. The detail in them is incredible, the poses are dynamic, their swords have so much detail in them. I just love these figures so much. They're easily some of my favorites that I have in my little collection here I'm building up. And here you can see up close, Pyra's got a lot of detail in her sword here, and just the way she's put together is very simple, but one thing I will say is that Mithra's figure did come after when they initially did these shippings, and there's definitely some parts that they could have done a little bit better. You can see that weird little peg thing there, and trying to get the sword into Mithra's hand is kind of a nightmare. As for how the figures come together, you can see that they kind of break apart. Pyra's one whole piece, but Mithra actually comes apart here, and so you can easily do things like assemble her sword together. So, yeah. All in all, I'm not going to go too much in depth here with all the figures here. Other channels do this way better, but Pyra's definitely my favorite here just because she's easier to build, better to maintain, and Mithra's got some weird jank going on to her. And if you were confused as to why Xenoblade Music was playing with Raiza, now you know why. I figured I'd go over Cosmos first just because she kind of fits with the previous Xenoblade theme we had going on here. And this is a figure that was kind of elusive at first because they just kind of said, hey, here's Cosmos, kind of going along with Pyra and Mithra, but not really together with them as her base doesn't fit together as Pyra and Mithra's do together. But this is the first time I've actually ever opened this figure, so I'm going to have to go Monado Buster on this blister packaging here. And now that I've gone ahead and opened that, it looks incredible. I know I said amazing like 20 times in the last bit. I'm going to try to mix up my wordplay here, but Cosmos is similar to Pyra in the sense that she's got a full body frame and has her head come off, but the detail on her hair there is beautiful. I love how it goes from just that solid color at the top just to kind of that translucent that you can see throughout the whole thing. And one thing I will praise about Cosmos' figure is that it's very smartly designed. As you can see, her Zohar cannons there have arms attached to it, and in the base figure itself, you just kind of snap them together, and it comes together quite easily and quite nicely, all things considered. Definitely less of a pain than Mithra's sword to put together, but there she is in all of her glory. I don't think I actually get to zoom in on the base, but there is so much detail in this figure that it's honestly incredible that they managed to just make it look this nice. You can kind of see, not so much with this camera quality, but she's got text that says Cosmos Re on her, and she's got a bunch of references to Xenosaga all throughout her plating, I guess is the way I'd put it. And yeah, accidental titty touch there, but you can even see her little core crystal, which in the Xenosaga games, which I plan to get to one day, is how she kind of uses her like super attack, if anything. But Also, what's a nice detail here is that you kind of see me showing off her spinal column, I guess. And one neat little thing there is that with the head coming off, you can kind of adjust it so that Cosmos has her visor, and you can make it her face shown, I guess. So yeah, with all the Xenoblade figures I currently have, there are going to be more coming soon. Honestly, Cosmos might be my new favorite, but I'll decide that another time, as let's get into Raiza here. And here is the figure of Raiza from her premiere game, the first one that came out, as she's got a sequel already. Here are some of the details on the box. I really like how it has that kind of nice little background on the back there. And there you can see all the details of Raiza herself. And this figure honestly does a really good job of representing how she looks in the game. Whereas with Pyra and Mithra, they kind of are in action a lot of the time. I feel like this figure here is just kind of become synonymous in my brain with how Raiza looks and whatever I think of her in the games, and very well detailed. I like how you got a little bit of things, like you have her little pouch there with that zipper on it, all the different vials on her, because, you know, she's an alchemist and she carries these things around her and just kind of yeets all these potions into battle and whatnot. Not that I would know because I haven't gotten around to playing the game yet, but we can talk about that another time. What we can talk about now is how incredibly detailed the little things on her are, like her cape there, her little staff here. The way you put it in is that it kind of breaks apart and then you actually slit it into underneath her coat there, as you kind of got two little holes there that'll perfectly fit in there, as you kind of see me gesturing there. And the base, I really like the base. It's a very simple base, but the fact that it's got a little trail going on there is really, really nice to me. But I'm kind of rambling here, as we got to get on to the next set of figures that came in. As for the month of August, I got Raiza from her appearance in her second game, and I got a figure of Chen from Arknights as well. But let's go over Raiza's other figure, as I think it's a bit more coherent theming I like to have going on. And here is Raiza in all of her glory. I didn't go over the box in that much detail because it wasn't that great, but what does have detail is Raiza's figure here. I really like this figure a lot because it does kind of reflect that more mature aura that Raiza has, as the time frame between the first and second games is about 3 years, and I think they kind of just nailed it with her design here. Similar to the first Raiza, the second Raiza here has a staff that kind of clips onto her, goes into her hand, just kind of clips on, such as the first one, except the head goes on for that one. But yeah, here you can see up close just how much beautiful detail this figure has. I mean, the coat just has this really nice position that is just stuck in, and it just kind of feels like it's flowing in a nice summer breeze. And you don't have as many details on like the vials and stuff with this figure as the first one, but I do like how the staff looks in general. This one is a bit more of an appealing one, although you can see there I kind of did a bit of a mistake, as I broke the thumb on this figure by trying to fit it in. So for that one alone, maybe I prefer the first Raiza figure, but here you can see both of them in all of their glory, and yeah, I love these two figures as well. If I had to say I had a preference, probably the first Raiza, just because I didn't break her screwing up trying to put the staff in. But that's kind of life, as let's talk about Chen's figure, who is much simpler to assemble in comparison. One thing I will say about these Arknights figures that have been coming out lately is that their boxes are pieces of art in themselves. They just have so much detail on them, incredibly just well designed, very beautiful. And the same with the bases here. You can see Chen's base has super attention to detail put onto it, and it's got a nice little texture to it as well whenever you touch it. As for Chen herself, relatively plain, I don't want to say, I don't think that's the right word, relatively simple figure. Not too much like details put into her. She's just kind of standing, chilling, her typical pose as it is in the game, just very default-ish, but they did put a lot of effort into putting the details in on her, as I didn't know that the back of her boots were just open. So hey, you learn a little bit more about the world, I guess, through this figure. Her swords do feel kind of cheap, in all honesty, because they're just kind of plastic, but you just kind of slide them into their sheath there. And I do like how they kind of added the little pin that she has. It's like, hey, she's part of Rose Island now. Here's that little attention to detail. So yeah, Chen is overall a very simple figure, but I think she's a very classy and elegant figure. Nothing too fancy, as it's kind of very fitting of Arknights, but we got more figures to talk about here. And let's just bring in this behemoth of a box here. And do I really need to do any explaining? I think the music does a good enough job for me, as we have the Shirona with Gaborias, or for all of us English speakers, Cynthia with Garchomp figure. This one, I don't believe is an exact scale, but it's made by Kotobukiya, which has this line of Pokemon figures, which they release with kind of a trainer and their signature Pokemon, and this is the first one I was aware of, and of course it's the biggest one. And Garchomp here looks pretty sick. Garchomp isn't exactly one of my favorite Pokemon, but come on, it looks amazing. The texture on that little base they got there looks really damn cool. But Cynthia, the main reason I went for this figure. And these Artifacts figures are honestly pretty cheap compared to other scales, so everything else I've shown up to this point has been a 1/7 scale, whereas this one's just a regular figure, just kind of no scale, just made because it's cool, and Cynthia does look powerful here. You can just see that the detail on her is relatively simple, all things considered, but yeah, these two just look powerful, and I'm really glad with how they turned out. Just an overall menacing aura to these figures. I know the box is a bit scuffed, but we don't gotta worry about that, as I did get a few other figures in September as I went into Pop-Up Parades. Now, for those of you who don't know, Pop-Up Parade is a brand of figure that's kind of a cheaper edition. It's only like 30 bucks usually, but you pay for what you get, and honestly they do make some decent figures. So I went for the Season 1 version of Blake Belladonna from Ruby. Look, I liked Ruby when it started, right? Don't judge me, and I figured I'd get something on the down low in terms of cost. Decent attention to detail here for what you get here. 30 bucks, it came out pretty nice. I like the coils on the whip there. Just overall, you do see it's a bit mangled here, and with the Dark Magician Girl figure I got here, let's just say things go wrong.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
Yeah, that little wand of hers is supposed to go in between her legs, but I for the life of me can't figure it out. And her base ended up breaking on me when I first put her together, so beware of Pop-Up Parade figures. You gotta be very careful with them as you pay for what you get, like I said. But let's just say I also bought another figure. Okay, the story behind this one. I said to a joke to my friend who really likes Fairy Tail, hey, what if we get this swimsuit version of Lucy here? He said, so you'll get one if I get one? And then I realized I was in too deep, and I had already committed to this bit. So now I have a figure that I can do whatever I want with for experience. Let's just move on to the next one, okay? And we're not done with Pop-Up Parade figures just yet, as I got one last one here, and as you can see, it's Yun Yun from Konosuba. Konosuba is honestly one of my favorite animes. It came for me at a really good point in my life, it just gave me laughs when I needed it, so I really like the characters in it. Yun Yun, really solid pop-up here, but I think we gotta talk about the real reason I love Konosuba, and that is this girl here, Megumin. And yes, since I love her so much, I was insane enough to go for the E-Stream 1/7 scale explosion version of Megumin here, and easily my most expensive figure here, as E-Stream is notorious for having very expensive figures, and I think you can see why here. The base is amazing. I love the details on the explosion flames, the ring here of the magic she's casting, and just the base itself with all the spirals looks cool. So as for how the figure gets assembled, there you see Megumin's head kind of comes off, and that's so you can put her cape in, and once she's all put together, she looks good. Very, very good. Like, the price is worth it, is what you think initially, but I do have some gripes with the figure, as a lot of people do. I mean, the staff, it looks beautiful. I love the attention to detail on it, but there's some issues with this. So, with the Megumin figure in particular, the cape, very detailed, looks beautiful, shading's nice. What's wrong with it? It doesn't exactly fit. So, here I've sped it up, but you can see me struggling to put this cape in, and ultimately what I usually end up doing is just getting one of the slots in, and the other one just kind of hangs out, and hey, guess what? My figure also broke when it came in here, so you see me pointing at it there, as you may be able to see the slight crack there, as, yeah, that was just broken when I got it, and I had to super glue the thing together. So between the two Konosuba figures I currently own, don't worry, I'm getting more in the future, that's for sure. Honestly, I kinda prefer the Yun Yun, if anything, because she's simpler. She's just a really nice solid figure, and the Megumin one, Extreme just really needs to get their stuff together in all honesty. But you know what company doesn't need to get their act together? Good Smile. And as you can see, we've got two other non-anime figures. We got XU size E2 version here and Lyn, and once again, Arcanite figures, boxing, knocking it out of the park. I love the attention to detail they put, even on the top of the box here. How much attention is given to the top of the box? Enough for this figure to show how gorgeous she is. Simply exquisite attention to detail here. I love how the base is this pillar of rocks. That's not even part of her E2 art, but it's pretty cool. Even like underneath the base it looks sick, and the little details you see on her, like her dog tags, the parts of her sweater, I guess? Coat? Whatever you want to call it. She has these pieces that aren't rigid, like they're kind of flexible, which I think is really smart design. It allows the figure to have a little bit of leeway to it, like it's not just gonna snap, although we'll get to that later. It's gonna bite me in the ass, don't worry. But yeah, here you can see the detail from the back. Looks incredible, but as you can see at the bottom of the base there's a bit of a spot where this abomination goes. So this is the kind of pseudo halo of machine gun rifles that Exusai has in her E2 art, and she kind of has a rifle in her hand. So one thing that's like actually cool that I only noticed because I've been playing a lot of SMT5 lately is that she has 9 guns in her E2 art, which is kind of reflective of the fact that the Laterano, her race, are like an angel people, and how it's like reflective of the 9 circles of like the 9 tiers of angels. So that's actually really cool. Lore all builds in together. But yeah, you can see her up close here, and my goodness, I just love this figure. Such incredible attention to detail. But remember what I said about pieces not exactly being too rigid? So when I was assembling this figure originally, the pinky you can see here that I'm touching just kind of snapped off. Like literally I grazed it and it just fell out. So I had to super glue the thing back together. But aside from that, amazing figure. Easily one of my favorites in my collection. Just so much attention to detail. Looks gorgeous. But there's another Good Smile figure we gotta talk about here, and that is of course Lady Lindis. Not as detailed as Exusai, of course, but I think she looks amazing in her own right for different reasons. Here you can see just the beautiful artwork that was done by Wara Shikicho. I think that's how you say the name of the artist. If I butchered it, I'm sorry. But it looks amazing. So Lyn is a very popular Fire Emblem character, and I think the fact that she finally gets a figure means they had to put a lot of attention to detail in it to make sure they get everything right, and my god, do I think they just nailed it with her. Here you can see, just up close, a lot of the finer attentions to detail. I keep saying that, I just don't know what else to say. I don't know the synonyms for this, guys, but it looks really nice. And the ties on her sash, those are flexible too, kind of like Exusai's strings on her coat. And as for her hilt there in her sheath, that is actually a separate piece that goes into it. And one thing that's interesting about Lyn is that her ponytail is actually just affixed to her hair there. It's not a piece that comes out, which is a bit worrisome. And there is one thing that I did notice when I got this figure. I'm kind of pointing at it here, but there's like a little bit of paint transfer onto her arm there, which I didn't really like. But there you can see me zooming in on the place where this sheath goes in. So yeah, it's just a simple little piece of plastic, but I think it contrasts very well with the other stuff. And as for the Manikari, it functions similarly to Mithra's sword from earlier. You just take it apart and then put it back together in her hand. I think it's supposed to go into her other hand, but it doesn't really fit for me. And her base is weird. I mean, the shape is unique, and the bottom is weird as well. I just wanted to notice that, but hey, it looks cool. I like the little grassy detail. I think it works very well together, and these two figures are easily some of the best ones I have in my collection. But I do have another set of figures I want to talk about here, as I have a set of figures that I didn't really get in a single month as they're part of a set, and I think it's just better if I show you what I'm talking about here. Before any of you give me crap for this, let me explain myself here. What is in this crate here that you can see are these Evolution figures. And they are technically Funko Pops, but I think you can say that they get a pass here. Look at how sick these are. So this was a collection of little figures Funko made, where it's the whole set of evolutions, including Sylveon. So everything is up to date, and I didn't actually put them together up until this point. And now that I also have a collection of all these plushies from back in Gen 6 when this line released, that combined with this set of figures I have here, it looks amazing. This is like one of the coolest things I think I have. Just having all the plushies lined up on top of their boxes. I don't have the Eevee box, unfortunately, just because I bought that last year, so I ended up throwing that one out, because I never thought I'd get the whole collection. I just bought it as a one-off at GameStop, because it looked cute and I keep it on my desk actively, but no, this looks sick. I can genuinely say that I have a Funko Pop, by technicality, and that it looks good. I'm just as shocked as you guys by this statement. But yeah, that's how I wanted to end off the video here. So I apologize if I was getting kind of breathy and maybe a bit quieter towards the end of the video. I did record all of this in one go, and recently I've had some issues with my chest. I had it checked out. They don't really know exactly what's wrong with it, but it doesn't seem to be anything serious, thankfully, so I just have to kind of take it easy, which is the exact opposite of what I did here, which is pretty given for me to do something as reckless and stupid as this. But whatever, I want to take this video by the end of the year, and doggone it, depending on your time zone, I've done that. So yeah, I think this final shot here just really shows why I like doing this. Just having cool things that I would never have been able to have done before in my life, considering I grew up in poverty and now I'm working and able to do this stuff, and I think it's neat. I think it's cool, and I wanted to share that with you guys here. Again, my budget was like $2,100, 2,000 on anime figures, 20 on the tripod, 80 on the set. Help me figure out the budgeting, but look, hopefully in 2022 I can do an even cooler video for you guys. I honestly wouldn't get your hopes up too much, but I would love to show you guys what I have there. Thank you all so much for watching this and supporting me in my first, I guess, IRL-ish 3D type video, and yeah, don't get used to this. I'm definitely not doing this again. This was a pain in the ass to film. My thighs were killing me for days after I did all the squatting to get this done, but hey, let me know if you have any of these figures, which ones you guys liked, which one you didn't like, and if you have any of your own collections, let me know what you have. I'm clearly not scripting this, as I think I just said the same thing twice there. Yeah, I'm still not that good with unscripted content because work makes me rambly, but I am done here. I'm gonna finally rest. Thank you all so much for watching again. See you next time. Next year, hopefully. Peace.